Admiral June Tejo stood in the great chamber of the Galactic Council, watching as 47 different species argued about humanity's fate. The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars, its metal walls filled with the angry voices of alien lawmakers. June had served humanity for 30 years. He had fought in 3 wars, saved countless lives, and helped build peace between enemies. Now he watched as these same aliens who had once called humans their friends prepared to throw Earth out of the galaxy's most important club. The chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles that rose up like a mountain. Each species had their own area. The reptilian hegemony sat in the coldest section, their scales gleaming under blue lights. The bird-like Aryan Federation perched on high branches that hung from the ceiling. Energy beings from the ethereal collective floated in special containers that kept their form stable. At the center of it all sat Prime Speaker Colmarines, a being of pure light who controlled the meetings. His voice echoed in everyone's mind without using sound. The Council will now hear the charges against the Terran Federation. Councillor Vexathara rose from the hegemony section. She was 7 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. When she spoke, her voice was like grinding stone. Honored Council members, humanity has broken our most sacred law. They have made contact with primitive species, without permission. June felt his hands tighten into fists. Dr. Park Mi-young, who sat beside him, placed a gentle hand on his arm. She was humanity's best diplomat and one of the smartest people June had ever met. Her calm presence always helped him think clearly. Admiral, Park whispered, let her finish. We have our evidence ready. Vexathara continued her speech. 3 months ago, human ships were detected in the Kepler 442 system. This system contains a planet with intelligent life that has not yet developed faster than light travel. By Council law, such species must be left alone until they discover space travel on their own. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. The Council had this law for good reasons. Too many young civilizations had been destroyed when more advanced species contacted them too early. The humans claimed they were only studying the system, Vexathara said. But we have proof they landed on the planet. They spoke with the natives. They shared technology. This is exactly what our laws forbid. Prime Speaker Colmarines turned his attention to the human section. Admiral June, how does humanity respond to these charges? June stood up slowly. He was not as tall as Vexathara, but his presence filled the chamber. His gray hair was cut short in military style, and his uniform was simple but clean. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of truth. Honored Speaker, the charges are false. Humanity did send ships to study the Kepler 442 system, but we did not contact the natives. We did not land on their planet. We followed every council law. Vexathara's laugh was like breaking glass. You deny the evidence? We have recordings of human voices speaking the native language. We have images of human footprints in their soil. Yes, June said calmly, because those humans were rescued from hegemony prison ships. The chamber exploded into chaos. Species shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded proof. Others called for order. Prime Speaker Colmarines sent waves of calming energy through the room until everyone grew quiet. Explain yourself, Admiral, the Prime Speaker said. Dr. Park stood up and activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the chamber floor. 3 months ago, our deep space monitors detected distress signals from the Kepler 442 system. When we investigated, we found this. The hologram showed a massive hegemony ship hovering over a blue-green planet. Smaller ships moved back and forth between the mothership and the planet's surface. The images clearly showed reptilian soldiers, forcing humanoid aliens into cargo holds. The hegemony was kidnapping the native population. Park continued. They had already taken over 2,000 beings. Our rescue mission saved them and returned them to their planet. The human voices and footprints Councillor Vexathara mentioned belonged to our rescue teams. Vexathara's scales turned darker. These images are fake. The Terran Federation has created false evidence to hide their crimes. Are they fake? June asked. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Computer, please confirm the source of these recordings. A mechanical voice filled the chamber. Recordings captured from hegemony ship computer systems using standard council investigation protocols. Authentication verified by 17 independent sources. The chamber fell silent. Even the energy beings stopped their constant humming. Everyone stared at the holographic evidence floating in the air. You stole our ship data? Vexithara hissed. We rescued it, June corrected. When your ship tried to destroy the evidence, our team saved the computer cores. Everything is here, not just the kidnapping operation in Kepler 442, but dozens of other systems. You have been secretly harvesting primitive species for 20 years. Dr. Park added more images to the display. System after system appeared, all showing hegemony ships taking beings from their home worlds. Some showed mining operations that stripped entire planets bare. Others showed slave camps where different species were forced to work without pay. The hegemony has broken council law hundreds of times, Park said. They blame humanity to hide their own crimes. Councillor Vexithara's voice became a roar. Even if this were true, it does not excuse human actions. Both species should be punished. For what? June asked. For saving lives? For stopping kidnapping? For protecting the innocent? For interfering in hegemony operations? The words hung in the air like poison. Vexithara realized what she had said, but it was too late. She had just admitted that kidnapping primitive species was a hegemony operation. Prime, Speaker Colmarine spoke into the silence. The evidence is clear. The hegemony has violated council law. However, humanity also acted without council permission. Both species must face consequences. June felt his heart sink. Even with proof of hegemony crimes, the council would still punish humanity for doing the right thing. This was exactly what he had feared. The council will vote, the Prime Speaker announced. First, on hegemony membership. Second, on human membership. The vote on the hegemony was close. 24 species voted to suspend them from the council. 23 voted to let them stay. The hegemony kept their membership by one vote. Then came humanity's turn. The numbers were worse. 31 species voted to expel humanity from the council. Only 16 voted for them to stay. The Terran Federation is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council, Prime Speaker Colmarines announced. All human colonies in council space must be abandoned. Earth will be placed under protective quarantine until humanity learns to follow galactic law. Dr. Park stood up beside June. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet anger. Protective. Quarantine, she repeated. That means no trade, no technology sharing, no contact with other species. You are cutting humanity off from the galaxy because we saved innocent lives. The council has spoken, Vexithara said with satisfaction. Humanity must learn its place. That was when Dr. Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. Admiral, she said to June, I think it is time to show them what humanity has really been doing for the past 30 years. June nodded. He had hoped it would not come to this, but the council had made their choice. He activated his communicator and spoke one word. Phoenix. Outside the space station, the small human escort fleet began to change. Ships that had looked like simple transport vessels suddenly revealed hidden weapon ports. Their hulls shifted and reconfigured as advanced technology came online. Energy shields appeared around each ship, glowing with power that made nearby sensors scream warnings. Captain Lee Da-Un's voice came through the communicator, calm and professional. Phoenix Protocol activated, Admiral. All ships ready for departure. In the council chamber, alien sensors detected the energy signatures. Readings showed power levels that should have been impossible for human technology. Species that had just voted against humanity suddenly looked very worried. How? Vexithara whispered. Human technology is centuries behind ours. Dr. Park's smile grew wider. No, Counselor, we just let you think it was. She activated another holographic display. This one showed star charts of human space, but not the space the Council knew about. Hidden colonies appeared on dozens of worlds. Space stations orbited stars that Council maps showed as empty. Most shocking of all, the technology signatures were far beyond anything the Council possessed. For 30 years, humanity has played by your rules, Park continued. We pretended to be the junior species. We asked permission for everything. We shared our discoveries and accepted your limitations on our technology. We did this because we hoped to build a better galaxy together. June stepped forward. But you never wanted partners. You wanted servants. You wanted humanity to stay weak and grateful while you remained in control. The Council gave humanity a place among the stars, Prime Speaker Colmarine said, but his voice had lost its certainty. The Council gave humanity a cage, June replied. A comfortable cage, but still a cage. You restricted our exploration. You limited our technology. Captain Li De-Yun watched the Council station grow smaller on her ship's view screen. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, preparing for what everyone knew would come next. The aliens would not let humanity leave without a fight. Captain, her communications officer called out. We are receiving multiple hail requests from Council ships. They want us to stop and return to the station. Lee was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had commanded ships for 12 years, but had never been in a situation like this. Ignore them, she ordered. Continue on course for the jump point. The hegemony fleet is moving to intercept us, her tactical officer reported. 27 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers. Lee smiled. The reptilian hegemony always thought with their weapons first. Let them come. Signal the fleet. Prepare for Phoenix reveal. Throughout the human fleet, ships began to transform. What the Council had seen as simple escort vessels were actually something far more advanced. Hull plates shifted and rearranged themselves. Hidden weapon ports opened along the ship's sides. Most importantly, energy fields appeared around each vessel, creating protective barriers that glowed with soft blue light. Commander Yoon Seok-jin stood in the command center of the human flagship, watching displays that showed the true scope of humanity's preparations. For 3 decades, Earth's best engineers and scientists had worked in secret, developing technologies that the Council would never have allowed. Status report, Yoon ordered. Engineer Kim Hae-won looked up from her console. She was young for such an important position, but her mind worked faster than most computers. All ships have activated their defensive screens. Weapons are online but set to disable only. We are not here to start a war. Good, Yoon said. Remember, we want them to understand our capabilities, not fear our intentions. The hegemony ships approached in attack formation. Their weapons were already charging, energy building in cannon ports that could destroy planets. Counselor Vexithera's voice came over open communication channels, broadcasting to both fleets. Human ships, you are ordered to return to Nexus Prime immediately. Failure to comply will result in defensive action. Captain Lee responded calmly. Hegemony vessels, you are blocking our departure route. Please move aside. We have no wish for conflict. You do not get to choose, Vexithera snarled. Your ships will be captured and your crews arrested for defying Council authority. I see, Lee said. She turned to her weapons officer. Target their engines only. Minimum force necessary. The hegemony fleet opened fire first. Massive energy. Beams struck the human ships, weapons that could cut through the strongest known armor. The beams hit the blue energy fields around the human vessels and simply disappeared, absorbed without causing any damage at all. In the hegemony flagship, Vexithera stared at her tactical displays in disbelief. Impossible. Those were full-power shots. Nothing can absorb that much energy. Her weapons officer, a younger reptilian named Kexthor, checked his instruments twice. Energy readings confirmed direct hits, Counselor. The human shields appear to have absorbed 100% of the incoming fire. Fire again, Vexithera ordered. All ships maximum power. The entire hegemony fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and quantum missiles filled space with destructive force. The human ships sat motionless in the storm of weapons fire, their shields glowing brighter but never failing. Then the humans fired back. Light lanced out from the human ships, but it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to destroy the hegemony vessels, the beams passed right through their hulls like ghosts. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the hegemony ships went dark. Their engines stopped. Their weapons powered down. Their life support continued working, but everything else simply turned off. "Report!" Vexathera shouted at her crew. "All systems offline," Kexthor said, his voice filled with confusion. "But there is no damage. The ship is intact. It is like something reached inside and turned everything off." Captain Lee's voice came over the communication channel again, still calm and professional. "Hegemony fleet, your ships have been disabled but not damaged. Your crews are unharmed. We will restore your systems once we have safely departed Council space." Commander Yoon watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The phasing weapons had worked perfectly. Instead of destroying the enemy ships, they had simply passed through the hulls and disabled specific systems. It was a demonstration of both technological superiority and human restraint. "Begin evacuation operations," Yoon ordered. "All human personnel in Council space are to be withdrawn immediately." Across the galaxy, the real evacuation began. Dr. Park Mi-young had spent years preparing for this moment. Hidden communication networks activated, sending coded messages to every human colony, research station, and diplomatic post in Council territory. Ambassador Choi Sora stood in the embassy on Arian Prime, watching as her staff packed decades of diplomatic records. The bird-like Aryans fluttered nervously around the building, confused by the sudden departure. "Ambassador," one of the Aryan officials asked, "why are the humans leaving? We have been friends for 30 years. Choi was an older woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She had dedicated her life to building bridges between species. "We are not leaving because we want to, friend Kretal. We are leaving because the Council has made it clear that humanity is not welcome as equals." "But you can appeal the decision," Kretal said. "The Council sometimes changes its mind. The Council voted to quarantine our entire species because we saved people from kidnappers," Choi replied. "They sided with the criminals over the rescuers. What does that tell you about their justice?" Kretal's feathers ruffled with uncertainty. The Aryans had always been peaceful, preferring diplomacy to conflict, but even they could see the unfairness in the Council's decision. As Choi's team loaded the last of their belongings onto transport ships, she turned to address the gathered Aryans. "If your people ever decide they want real friendship instead of Council supervision, you know how to reach us." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Human teachers said goodbye to alien students. Human doctors left hospitals where they had saved thousands of lives. Human engineers abandoned projects that would have improved entire civilizations, but the most shocking discoveries were yet to come. Engineer Kim Hae-won stood in the cargo bay of a massive transport ship, watching as containers of equipment were loaded aboard. Each container held technology that the Council had no idea existed. "Status report on the colony ships," she requested. Her assistant, a young man named Park Dong-woo, checked his tablet. "All 47 hidden colonies have confirmed receipt of evacuation orders. They are prepared to cut communication with Council space." 47? Kim asked. "I thought we only had 23 colonies." "That was the official count," Parky explained. "The additional colonies were established in deep space beyond Council sensor range. Some of them have been operational for over 15 years. Kim smiled. Humanity had been busier than even she had known. "And the terraforming operations?" "All proceeding on schedule. We should have 12 new habitable worlds ready within 6 months." On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Yoon received similar reports from across human space. The evacuation was going smoothly, but the true scope of humanity's secret activities was becoming clear even to him. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we have confirmation that Project Genesis is ready for activation." Yoon nodded. Project Genesis was humanity's ultimate backup plan. If they were ever cut off from the galaxy, they would not just survive. They would thrive. "What about our non-council contacts?" Yoon asked. 17 species in uncharted space have confirmed their continued cooperation, the officer replied. They are as disgusted with council politics as we are. Back at Nexus Prime, the council was trying to understand what had just happened. The disabled hegemony ships had been restored to working order, but their crews were shaken. Nobody had ever seen weapons that could selectively disable ship systems without causing damage. Prime Speaker Colmarines called an emergency session. "We need to assess the threat level posed by human technology. It is beyond our current understanding," admitted scientist Morgath of the Crystalline Collective. "The energy absorption alone should be impossible. Matter cannot simply absorb unlimited energy without consequences." "Yet we all witnessed it," said Representative Thys of the Oceanic Union. "Perhaps we have underestimated human scientific capabilities." Counselor Vexathera slammed her clawed hand on her desk. "They made fools of us. They pretended to be weak, while building weapons we cannot match. They could have destroyed the entire hegemony fleet," Thys pointed out. "Instead, they disabled it without harming anyone. That suggests restraint, not aggression." "It suggests they want us to underestimate them again," Vexathera snarled. Prime Speaker Colmarines tried to maintain order. "We need to focus on practical matters. How do we deal with a species that possesses superior technology and no longer recognizes our authority?" The question hung in the air without an answer. For the first time in the Council's 1,000-year history, they faced a species that was both more advanced than them and completely independent. Meanwhile, Ambassador Choi, 6 months had passed since humanity left the Council, and the galaxy felt different. Trade routes that had operated for centuries now led to empty space. Communication networks that had connected distant worlds suddenly had gaps where human relay stations used to be. Most disturbing of all, entire star systems that had been inhabited by humans seemed to have vanished completely. Dr. Kang Byung-ho stood in the control room of the Terra Isolation Project, watching as the dimensional barriers completed their final calibrations. Around him, screens showed views of space that looked perfectly normal from the inside. But he knew that from the outside, observers would see nothing but empty void. "Status report," Kang requested from his team. Scientist Lim Young-suk looked up from her quantum communications console. "All barriers are stable. Council sensors are reading our space as completely empty. Even if they send physical ships to investigate, they will pass right through our dimensional pocket without knowing we are here." "And our ability to monitor them?" "Perfect," Lim confirmed. "We can see everything happening in Council space while remaining completely invisible. It is like being behind a one-way mirror that covers entire star systems." Kang nodded with satisfaction. The isolation technology had taken 15 years to develop, based on humanity's research into dark matter and quantum mechanics. The Council had always forbidden such research, claiming it was too dangerous. Now humanity was using it to disappear from the galaxy entirely. On the other side of the dimensional barrier, the Council was discovering just how much they had depended on human innovation. Scientist Morgath of the Crystalline Collective stood in his laboratory on Nexus Prime, staring at a broken faster-than-light communication device. For the 3rd time this month, critical Council infrastructure was failing, and nobody could figure out how to fix it. The human engineers always handled the advanced repairs, his assistant reminded him. They understood the quantum resonance patterns better than anyone. Morgath's crystalline body flickered with frustrated colors. "We should be able to figure this out ourselves. We are not primitive beings." But the truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Humans had not just been members of the Council, they had been the Council's primary problem solvers. When other species encountered technical difficulties, they had always called for human assistance. When diplomatic negotiations reached deadlocks, human mediators had found solutions. When new threats emerged, human strategists had developed responses. Now all of that expertise was gone. Prime Speaker Colmarines called another emergency session as reports of system failures poured in from across Council space. Representatives from 46 species, the hegemony had been suspended pending investigation, gathered to discuss their growing problems. The Aryan Federation reports that their atmospheric processors are failing, the Prime Speaker announced. Without immediate repairs, 3 of their colony worlds will become uninhabitable within months. Representative Thys of the Oceanic Union raised a tentacle. We face similar issues with our deep-sea mining operations. The pressure regulators were designed with human assistance. Our engineers do not understand how to maintain them. The same pattern repeats across the galaxy, confirmed scientist Morgath. Wherever humans provided technical assistance, we now face critical failures. It is as if they designed these systems to fail without their presence. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Had humanity deliberately sabotaged Council infrastructure before leaving? Representative Kretal of the Aryan Federation spoke up, her feathers rustling with nervousness. Perhaps we should consider that humans simply understood these technologies better than we realized. When they offered to help, we accepted gratefully. We never bothered to learn the underlying principles ourselves. You suggest we became dependent on them? Thys asked. I suggest we took their expertise for granted, Kretal replied. Now we are paying the price for our laziness. Meanwhile, Admiral Nam Ji-woo led humanity's deep space reconnaissance missions into regions the Council had never explored. Her fleet consisted of ships that could travel faster and farther than anything the galaxy had ever seen, opening up vast new territories for human exploration. Admiral, her science officer reported, we are detecting intelligent radio signals from the Tau Ceti system. This appears to be a civilization that has not been contacted by the Council. Nam was a veteran explorer who had spent her career mapping unknown regions of space. What is their technological level? Early space age. They have achieved orbital flight and established colonies on 2 moons, but have not yet developed faster-than-light travel. Under Council law, such a species would be off-limits until they developed FTL technology on their own. But humanity was no longer bound by Council law. Prepare a first contact team, Nam ordered. And remember our new protocols. We offer friendship and assistance, not membership in a galactic government. The first contact with the Tau Satians went better than anyone had hoped. They were a peaceful species called the Veltar, resembling tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and large, intelligent eyes. When human ships appeared in their system, the Veltar responded with curiosity rather than fear. Dr. Oh Soo-jin, humanity's leading xenopsychologist, led the first meeting on the Veltar homeworld. She had spent years studying alien psychology and knew how to approach new species without causing panic. Greetings, people of Veltar, Oh said through her universal translator. We are humans, travelers from distant stars. We come in peace and friendship. The Veltar leader, an elderly being named Sektara, studied the humans with obvious fascination. You are not like the metal beings who visited our outer system last year. Oh felt a chill of concern. Metal beings? Can you describe them? Sektara gestured to an aide who brought forth a crude drawing. The image clearly showed reptilian figures in mechanical suits, hegemony soldiers. They took some of our people, Sektara continued. 300 from our outer colonies. We tried to stop them, but our weapons could not hurt their ships. Oh exchanged glances with her team. The hegemony had been here, conducting illegal kidnapping operations just as they had in dozens of other systems. Where did they take your people? We do not know. They flew toward the metal star. Oh consulted her star charts. The metal star was clearly a description of an artificial structure, probably a hegemony processing station. Sektara, we humans fight against the metal beings. If you will trust us, we will help you find your missing people. You would do this? But what do you want in return? Friendship. Oh replied simply. We believe the galaxy is big enough for all peaceful species to prosper together. The rescue mission launched 3 days later. Admiral Nam's ships used their advanced sensors to track hegemony vessels to a hidden base in an asteroid field. The station was a massive operation, processing kidnapped beings from dozens of species before shipping them to slave markets in uncharted space. This is even worse than we suspected, Nam said as she reviewed the intelligence reports. They are not just taking random individuals. They are targeting specific genetic types for specialized labor. The assault on the hegemony base was swift and decisive. Human ships phased through the station's shields as if they did not exist, disabling defensive systems without damaging life support. Boarding teams equipped with advanced armor and non-lethal weapons secured the facility within hours. What they found inside horrified even experienced soldiers. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were imprisoned in cramped cells, many showing signs of medical experimentation. The hegemony had been using them as test subjects for genetic modification procedures. Get medical teams down here immediately, Nam ordered. And prepare transport ships. We are taking all of these people home. The rescued Veltar were returned to their homeworld within a week, along with detailed intelligence about hegemony operations. But humanity's intervention did not stop there. They provided the Veltar with defensive technology that would protect them from future raids, and opened trade relations that gave the young civilization access to advanced medicine and agriculture. Most importantly, they offered the Veltar something the Council never had: a choice. We will not ask you to join any galactic government, Dr. O explained to Sektara. We will not demand tribute or obedience. We offer you friendship between equals. Nothing more and nothing less. News of humanity's actions spread quickly through the networks of non-council species. Advanced civilizations that had remained independent began reaching out to human representatives, curious about these newcomers who seemed different from the typical galactic powers. Engineer Kim Hae-won worked around the clock to meet the growing demand for human technology. Species after species requested assistance with projects the Council had either forbidden or ignored. Terraforming dead worlds, developing clean energy systems, creating defensive networks to protect against raiders like the hegemony. We are receiving 50 new requests per day, Kim reported to Commander Yoon. Independent species want everything from medical technology to faster-than-light communication systems. Can we meet the demand? Yoon asked. If we authorize the construction of additional manufacturing facilities, yes. But it will require expanding our automated production networks. Yoon nodded. Automated manufacturing was another technology. 2 years after humanity's departure from the Council, Captain Bae Min-ho stood on the bridge of his diplomatic vessel as it prepared for the most ambitious mission in human history. Around him, 16 other ships waited in formation, each one designed for a specific purpose that would change the galaxy forever. All ships report ready for simultaneous jump, his navigation officer announced. Bae was humanity's most experienced diplomat after Ambassador Choi. He had spent months preparing for this moment, studying the cultures and politics of 17 different species that had never been contacted by the Council. Today, humanity would make first contact with all of them at once. Execute jump, Bae ordered. The ships vanished from their hiding place in dimensional space and reappeared simultaneously in 17 different star systems across the galaxy. Each arrival was carefully timed to occur at the same moment, creating a coordinated announcement that humanity was ready to return to galactic politics, but on their own terms. In the Kepler-22 system, Captain Bae's ship appeared near the homeworld of the Nexthera, a species of intelligent crystalline beings who had refused all Council contact for 3 centuries. Their response to his arrival was immediate and hostile. Unknown vessel, you have entered Nexthera space without permission, came the transmission. Depart immediately or face defensive action. Bae activated his communication system, broadcasting on multiple frequencies to ensure his message was received clearly. Greetings, noble Nexthera. I am Captain Bae Min-ho of the Terran Federation. We come seeking friendship and alliance with your proud people. Terran Federation? The voice from the planet showed confusion. We do not recognize this designation. Are you affiliated with the Galactic Council? No, Bae replied firmly. We were once members of the Council, but we found their system incompatible with our values. We seek to build something better. a galaxy where species cooperate as equals rather than submit to a central authority. There was a long pause before the Nexthara responded. You speak of equality. The Council has sent many envoys over the centuries, always demanding submission in exchange for their protection. What makes you different? We offer proof, Bay said. He activated his ship's holographic projectors, creating a display visible from the planet's surface. The images showed human colonies working alongside dozens of species, all cooperating freely without any central government controlling them. This is our alliance, Bay continued. No rulers, no subjects. Each species maintains complete sovereignty over their own worlds while working together for mutual benefit. We share technology freely, defend each other from external threats, and resolve disputes through negotiation rather than force. Similar conversations were taking place in 16 other star systems as human diplomats made contact with species. The Council had either ignored or failed to convince. The results exceeded even humanity's optimistic projections. General Park Han-Sol monitored the diplomatic missions from his command ship in the Vega system. As military leader of the Terra Liberation Fleet, he was responsible for protecting the diplomatic teams and demonstrating humanity's defensive capabilities to potential allies. Status report on all contact missions, Park requested. His communications officer checked the incoming data streams. 14 of 17 species have agreed to preliminary discussions. 2 are requesting additional time to consider our proposal. 1 has declined but expressed no hostility. Park smiled. A success rate of over 80% was far better than anyone had expected. Any signs of Council interference? Negative, General. Council space remains focused on their internal crisis. They do not appear to be monitoring these regions. That was exactly what humanity had hoped for. While the Council struggled with failing infrastructure and political deadlock, humanity was quietly building a new galactic civilization in the spaces between their borders. Dr. Oh Soo-jin stood in the conference room of the Nexthara capital city, surrounded by crystalline beings whose bodies refracted light in beautiful patterns. She had spent years studying their culture and psychology, preparing for this crucial moment. Your proposal is intriguing, said Elder Zarneth, the Nexthara leader. But we have maintained our independence for millennia. Why should we join any alliance now? Because the galaxy is changing, Oh replied. The old powers are weakening. The Council can no longer maintain order in their own space, let alone protect independent species from threats like the hegemony. She activated a holographic display showing recent intelligence about hegemony raids in uncharted space. They have increased their kidnapping operations by 300% since humanity left the Council. Without organized resistance, they will eventually target every species in the galaxy. Elder Zarneth's crystalline form shifted to darker colors, indicating concern. The metal beings have not approached our space. Not yet, Oh agreed, but their pattern is clear. They start with isolated species that have no allies. Then they expand to stronger targets once they have built up their slave armies. Another Nexthara elder, Velkara, spoke up. You humans claim to offer protection, but what prevents you from becoming conquerors yourselves once you have gathered enough allies? It was the crucial question, the one that determined whether species would trust humanity or fear them. O had prepared for this moment carefully, because conquest requires control, and control requires bureaucracy, she explained. Look at the Council. They started as a voluntary alliance, but over time they became a rigid hierarchy that stifled innovation and oppressed weaker members. We have designed our alliance specifically to prevent that pattern. She changed the holographic display to show the structure of humanity's new alliance. No central government, no mandatory membership fees, no restrictions on technology development or cultural practices. Each species maintains complete autonomy while cooperating on mutual interests. And if disputes arise between member species? Velkara asked. Mediation by neutral parties with all solutions being voluntary, O replied. We have already successfully resolved 3 territorial disputes using this system. In each case, the involved species chose their own solution with guidance from neutral mediators. The negotiations continued for hours, but O could see the Nexthara growing more interested as they learned about humanity's approach. Unlike the Council, which demanded immediate decisions and complete compliance, the Human Alliance offered time, choices, and respect for cultural differences. Meanwhile, in Council space, the crisis deepened daily. The Aryan Federation had lost 5 colony worlds to infrastructure failures. The Oceanic Union faced widespread famine as their food production systems collapsed. Even Nexus Prime, the Council's capital station, struggled with power failures and life support problems. Prime Speaker Col Marines called emergency session after emergency session, but the Council could no longer function effectively. Representatives spent more time arguing about blame than solving problems. The bureaucracy that had once governed the galaxy was collapsing under its own weight. "We need to face reality," Representative Kretal told the assembled delegates. "The Council is failing. Our people are suffering. We must consider alternatives." "What alternatives?" demanded Councillor Morgath. "Submit to human rule? They abandoned us when we needed them most." "They left because we expelled them," Kretal reminded him. "After they saved innocent people from hegemony kidnappers, we chose to punish the rescuers and protect the criminals." The truth of her words stung, but many representatives still refused to accept responsibility for their situation. Representative Theiss of the Oceanic Union raised a tentacle. "Perhaps we should send ambassadors to the Human Alliance, not to rejoin them, but to negotiate separate agreements." "The Council does not negotiate with rebels," Morgath declared. "Then the Council will continue to fail while its members die," Theiss replied bluntly. "The Oceanic Union formally requests permission to pursue independent diplomatic contact with humanity." The request sparked the biggest political crisis in Council history. Species began announcing their intention to pursue independent relationships with humanity, effectively abandoning the Council's authority over foreign relations. Within days, the crisis spread as intelligence reports confirmed humanity's diplomatic offensive. 17 species in one day, all being offered the same thing: alliance without submission, technology without control, protection without dependence. General Park received hourly updates on the diplomatic successes. "The Nexthara have agreed to join our alliance," his intelligence officer reported. "They are particularly interested in our defensive technologies and quantum communication systems." "And the others?" "The Veltar from Tau Ceti have formally signed an alliance agreement. The Corithians are ready to join pending approval from their planetary assembly. Even the isolationist Zephyrians are showing interest." Park nodded with satisfaction. Each new ally strengthened humanity's position and weakened the Council's claim to galactic authority. More importantly, each alliance was genuinely voluntary, based on mutual benefit rather than fear or manipulation. Engineer Kim Hae-won worked frantically to meet the growing demand for human technology. The new allies wanted everything: faster ships, better weapons, advanced manufacturing systems, medical equipment that could cure diseases their own. 5 years had passed since humanity abandoned the Galactic Council, and President Kim Tae-young stood before the largest gathering of intelligent species in galactic history. The first Interspecies Congress was being held in the Alpha Centauri system, in a massive space station built specifically for this historic occasion. Unlike the rigid hierarchy of the old council chambers, this station was designed as a series of interconnected spheres, each one adapted for different species' environmental needs. There were no elevated platforms for senior members, no special seating for founding species. Every delegate sat as an equal among equals. Kim looked out at the assembled representatives of 83 different civilizations, all of them voluntary members of what had become known as the Terran Alliance. The name was misleading. Humanity held no special position in the alliance beyond being its original organizers. Decisions were made by consensus, not by human decree. "Friends," Kim began, her voice carried by universal translators to every being in the massive chamber. 5 years ago, humanity stood alone, cast out from the galaxy's primary political organization for the crime of saving innocent lives. Today, we gather not as subjects of a galactic empire, but as partners in a community of free peoples. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. 83 different species expressed approval in 83 different ways. The crystalline Nexithara chimed like musical instruments. The aquatic Oceanian refugees changed their skin colors to bright patterns. The energy beings of various types pulsed with harmonious frequencies. Dr. Shin Yun-ji sat in the observers' gallery, taking notes on the historic proceedings. As chief architect of the new galactic order, she had spent years designing political and economic systems that could accommodate wildly different species without forcing conformity. The success of the Congress proved that her theories worked in practice. The Alliance has achieved what many thought impossible, Kim continued. 83 species working together without a central government. No taxes, no mandatory laws, no restrictions on cultural practices or technological development. Yet we have accomplished more in 5 years than the old council managed in centuries. She gestured to holographic displays that filled the air above the chamber floor. The images showed the transformation of the galaxy over the past 5 years. Dead worlds brought to life through advanced terraforming, diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia, eliminated through shared medical research, technologies that had been forbidden or restricted, now improving lives across hundreds of star systems. We have connected every member world with instantaneous communication, Kim said. We have eliminated hunger through advanced agriculture and food distribution. We have cured 17 major diseases and created defensive systems that protect all of our peoples from external threats. Admiral Lee Jun-seo watched the proceedings from the military command center that monitored the space around the Congress station. As Supreme Commander of Allied Forces, he was responsible for protecting this gathering of representatives from every major independent civilization in the galaxy. Any signs of Council interference? Lee asked his staff. Negative, Admiral, his intelligence officer replied. Council space remains in crisis. They have lost 14 more member species in the past month alone. Current membership is down to 18 species from the original 47. Lee nodded grimly. The old Galactic Council was collapsing not from external attack, but from its own internal contradictions. Species after species had chosen to leave and join the Terran Alliance instead, attracted by the promise of freedom and genuine cooperation. What about the hegemony remnants? Lee asked. Still operating in the Outer Rim, but their activities have decreased significantly since we destroyed their main processing facilities. Without their slave labor operations, they lack the resources for major military actions. That had been one of the Alliance's greatest successes. Instead of ignoring the problem of galactic slavery as the Council had done, the Alliance had systematically dismantled the hegemony's criminal empire, not through conquest or domination, but through coordinated police actions that freed millions of enslaved beings and returned them to their homeworlds. Back in the Congress chamber, President Kim was introducing the day's main agenda item. Today, we face a choice that will define the future of our alliance. The remaining members of the Galactic Council have requested formal negotiations for a merger of our two organizations. The chamber fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. After 5 years of competing systems, the old and new approaches to galactic politics would finally meet. The Council's proposal is simple, Kim continued. They suggest a unified government with themselves as the senior partners and our alliance as junior members. In exchange, they offer to share their remaining territories and technologies. The silence stretched longer. Finally, Elder Zarneth of the Nexithara spoke up. What territories, what technologies? The Council controls less space than the smallest alliance member, and their technology is generations behind ours. Laughter rippled through the chamber, not cruel laughter, but the kind that comes from recognizing an absurd situation. The Council was trying to negotiate from a position of strength they no longer possessed. Representative Velkana of the Corethians raised a tentacle. Perhaps we should consider the humanitarian aspect. The Council species are suffering from infrastructure failures and economic collapse. Do we not have an obligation to help them? Of course we do, Kim replied. But help and submission are different things. We can offer aid without accepting their authority over us. Dr. Oh Soo-jin stood to address the chamber. As the Alliance's chief xenopsychologist, She had studied the political psychology of the Council's collapse. The Council's proposal reveals their fundamental misunderstanding of our nature. They still think in terms of hierarchy and control. They cannot conceive of genuine cooperation between equals. She activated a holographic display showing the two different governmental structures. The Council model requires a central authority that makes decisions for all members. Our model allows each species to make its own decisions while cooperating on shared interests. These approaches are incompatible. The debate continued for hours, with representatives from dozens of species offering their perspectives. Some favored accepting the Council's proposal in the interest of galactic unity. Others argued for maintaining the Alliance's independence. A few suggested more radical alternatives. Finally, President Kim called for a formal vote. The question before us is simple. Do we merge with the Galactic Council under their proposed terms, or do we maintain our independence while offering humanitarian aid? The vote was not even close. 79 species voted for independence with humanitarian aid. Only 4 voted for merger. 0 voted for complete rejection of aid. The Alliance has spoken, Kim announced. We will not submit to Council authority, but we will offer assistance to any species that requests it. Within hours of the vote, the response came from the Council. Prime Speaker Colmarine's message was broadcast across the galaxy on all communication frequencies. The Galactic Council rejects the Alliance's offer of conditional assistance, his voice echoed through space. We will not accept charity from rebels and outcasts. The Council will restore order to the galaxy through strength, not begging. The message continued with threats of military action against Alliance members and demands that all species choose between Council authority and chaos. It was exactly the kind of ultimatum that had driven species away from the Council in the first place. Admiral Lee received the Council's military preparations within minutes of their broadcast. Admiral, his intelligence officer reported, Council, forces are massing near the Rigel system. 18 ships including their remaining heavy cruisers. 18 ships? Lee asked. Against our combined fleet of over 4,000 vessels? Apparently, sir. The Council seems to believe that superior technology and numbers don't matter against their supposed moral authority. Lee shook his head in amazement. Even facing complete defeat, the Council could not abandon their delusions of superiority. Prepare the fleet for defensive operations. Remember our rules of engagement. Disable, don't destroy. These are desperate people, not evil ones. The final confrontation came 3 days later in the empty space between the dying Council and the thriving Alliance. 18 Council ships faced a combined Alliance fleet that outnumbered them 200 to 1. The technological disparity was even more dramatic. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as the Council fleet approached in traditional attack formation. Open a communication channel, he ordered. Prime Speaker Colmarines appeared on the main screen, his energy form flickering with what looked like desperation. Admiral Lee, the Galactic Council demands that you surrender immediately and submit to lawful authority. Prime Speaker, Lee replied calmly, you are outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting for a cause that has already lost. I urge you to reconsider this course of action. The Council does not negotiate with rebels, Colmarines declared. We will restore galactic order or die in the attempt. That would be a waste of life, Lee said. We don't want to rule the galaxy, Prime Speaker. We want to free it. The Council fleet opened fire. HFY